So Comrade Kamala is having a rebrand moment. Let's talk about it on Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and with me is Kimberly McNabb. So we're going to go ahead and look at some analysis that was done post Kamala Harris's DNC speech, in which people are saying that she sounds like a Republican. Let's go ahead and watch.
As I look at who this speech was aimed at last night, I think of a lot of M words: moderates, middle class, middle America.
Donald Trump has tried to define her. You know, they talk about her, the Republicans, the Trump Republicans, as a San Francisco liberal, as a radical. They call her Comrade Kamala. But she gave a speech, George, that if you take out that section on abortion rights, much of this speech could have been delivered at a Republican convention before Trump. She talked tough on Iran. She promised that as commander-in-chief, America would have the most lethal and strongest fighting force in the world. Very interesting move, and quite a contrast from the way she ran for president the first time when she tried to get the nomination 4 years ago. This is a Kamala Harris that sounded a little bit more like Maggie Thatcher or Ronald Reagan, especially on national security, than like Bernie Sanders.
Well, I tell you what, I've never heard anybody refer to Margaret Thatcher, who's the Prime Minister of England in the 80s, that was, best buds with Ronald Reagan, as Maggie Thatcher.
Yeah, she's not the baby from The Simpsons.
No.
I mean, it's just to infantilize a very powerful and brilliant woman.
Yeah, I mean, even a movie that was talking about her life called her the Iron Lady.
Yeah.
Right? The Iron Lady is not Maggie.
I mean, I've never seen an interview or a run-in with Kamala Harris where she sounded like the Iron Lady.
Yeah, no. So here's the thing is we have ABC, CNN, just the legacy mainstream media are all trying to rebrand and reboot this series of Kamala Harris, who is a progressive. She is a far left politician, and she is having the media, I think you said, provide top cover.
Yeah, they're running cover for her. And remember, up until a month ago, everyone, even CNN, everyone would say she was far left.
Right.
And let's not forget the government tracker that rated her left of Bernie Sanders.
Exactly.
That is who she is. Believe people by their actions. And up until a month ago, all of her actions said far leftist. This is not like someone who's a Republican and they're interviewed and they're like, well, when you were in college 20 years ago, you were pro-abortion. What
Right.
changed? And, it's like, well, now I have grandchildren and it just touches my heart and I can't stand to see a baby die. Like, it's pretty different between 20 years and a month ago.
Yeah, Kimberly, I couldn't agree more. I mean, here she is. She is a progressive politician. She's from California that has progressive policies. The legislature in California is a supermajority of Democrats, right? So anything goes. They pass all kinds of far left, legislation. She was in San Francisco, which is a bastion of liberalism, and for her to come out on that stage and give a speech that clearly she did not write. She did not write it. It was done by a professional speechwriter, and what they're trying to do is give her sheep's clothing for that wolf that she is, in order to appeal to moderates and independents and some never Trump Republicans, to say, look, just kidding, I'm really a centrist moderate and everything's going to be okay.
Yeah, ignore all those comments from like a week before where
Right.
she was basically saying she's going to control grocery store prices. So hell, not a month ago, a week ago.
Yeah,
a week ago, really? You've had that big of an awakening in a week, huh?
I mean, that's it. That's exactly right. I mean, to price control groceries and food and things like that, that is literally socialism. That is not a centrist policy. That's not a centrist policy. It just is not. And it's very disingenuous for the media to do this covering for her and to try and say that, look, she is a moderate and a centrist. I mean, Michael Moore, in a recent article, is beyond ecstatic that she is going to be the most progressive president ever. He knows who she is.
Yeah, progressives know who's going to progress.
Yeah, I mean,
they recognize the game.
He knows who she is and what she stands for, and he cannot wait for more progressive ideologies to just keep pushing the country to the left. I mean, you know, when we talk about words matter and precise words matter, this speech was good. It was a good speech. It really was a good. I watched it. I enjoyed it. It was a good speech, but the whole time I kept telling myself, "This is not who you are. This is not who she is." Great speech, but that's not who she is. She lied the entire time.
Every other word, lied. Like I could barely stomach it.
I mean, you know, she threaded. You know, she's a politician, first of all. So let's.
The person who wrote the speech is a politician.
Yeah, exactly. She's a politician, but she threaded this needle in between Israel and Palestine. I mean, even Joe Biden at the beginning of the week said the Palestinian protesters have a point, but still, you know, she's trying to thread that needle because she needs those particular votes. But again, this was an entire production and a lie in order to get your votes because the media won't keep her accountable. It's been, now we're at 37 days. 37 days.
I think it's 38. But
38?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, I mean, the news needs to stop presenting itself as news. Like, are you news or are you opinion piece?
Right.
And like I think you said earlier, MSNBC is really more like 80-90% opinion than. But the thing is, people, they just have this label as a news station,
right?
And so people turn it on and just assume it's news. And you know, I looked up some stuff about journalism, and you know, according to Career Builder, journalists must adhere to ethical standards and journalistic principles such as, wait for it, accuracy, fairness, objectivity, and balance. And one of the objectives of journalism is the public trust, one of the components of which is preventing the public from being misled by some statement or action of an individual or organization, per sanford.edu. So all this covering for her, when you're covering for someone, you're basically on their team. You are basically an in-kind contribution to their campaign. And where's that going to be on the financial statements?
Yeah, I mean that's the you know the problem that I have is when you have editorial shows, which are opinion shows, and then you have journalism. I mean, so again, when you look at you know, MSNBC, the very fact that they have all of these editorial shows where people give a news snippet and then give their opinion and on it and try and convince you that their opinion is correct, and they usually do you know, partial truths in order to cherry pick you know, words that people say. I mean, Donald Trump has done an interview with Dr. Phil, and it hasn't been released yet. It's going to be released later this week on the Dr. Phil show. But Dr. Phil has put out some snippets on X, and it talks about how a lot of Trump's words are taken out of context in order to demonize him and vilify him, right? And it's not Fox News that's demonizing and vilifying him on some of those things that he said. For example, one of the most famous one, there were fine people on both sides. And so what the mainstream media captured that on is that saying that the counter-protesters and the Ku Klux Klan white supremacists, you know, were fine people. He was talking about what was going on, and it was a protest and a counter-protest on the removal of Confederate statues.
Yeah, and he meant each side has a point for removing the statues and against.
Right. And so it wasn't the white supremacist and then the counter protester who was a liberal that got hit by the car and died. That's not the part he was talking about. But that's what they focused on. Oh, a woman was killed. There were fine people on both sides. They took all of that out of context. And so that's one of the things that this show is going to discuss is Donald Trump. Dr. Phil, I guess, is going to ask him, about certain comments that he made, and Donald Trump's like, "Look, here is the context of what I was saying there." So in this instance, we have the mainstream media doing these opinion pieces and vilifying Trump, but then they're trying to rebrand and reboot Kamala Harris, even though she hasn't given any interviews.
Yeah, they're trying to glorify her and just. I feel like we're being bombarded by articles that are just glorifying her and her husband, Doug Emhoff. So ridiculous, to the point of just caricature. For instance, a DNC delegate on ABC says she hasn't really gotten specific. We would really like to hear specifics from the number 2 in the current administration. VP Harris has been brave to roll out an economic agenda. The more you like this, meaning not having one, the more you share, the more your policies will be picked apart. Well, that's kind of the point of journalism, is to ask questions. Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? So that you can present and disseminate information to the public. And the less you do of that, the more you are obviously covering for someone, the less public trust you have.
Right. I mean, so Quentin Tarantino was on Bill Maher's podcast, not a show. It was a podcast. They were sitting down next to each other drinking some kind of tequila or something like that. And Quentin Tarantino was challenging Bill Maher for, for saying that she should be doing interviews. Quentin Tarantino said, no, absolutely not. She shouldn't be doing interviews because we want to win, meaning the Democrats, and she'll just fuck shit up. And that's what he said.
That's very true. I mean, if you're ahead in the polls, why would you change your strategy?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, that's idiotic. But also the DNC delegate on ABC said what she is saying is, I trust the American people and I trust journalists to explain the policies. That's not the journalist's job. The journalist's job is not to explain the policies. It's to present them. It's not to assume what they would be. I mean, if you trusted the American public, you would present the facts and let them decide for themselves, not tell them what to think.
Right. I mean, this is exactly to the point that we're trying to make, is that the legacy media is rebranding her as a moderate and a centrist. So it's obviously not true, but to the uninformed casual voter that just happens, hey, it's getting close to the election, so I think maybe I'll get a snippet of news. I'll turn on one of these things, and you have the media saying that she's a moderate. And she goes, God, so the voter says, well, I'm a moderate, so maybe that's the person I want to vote for. The second Kamala wins, she will rip off that sheep's clothing, and she will be revealed for the true progressive that she is, and that she showed us to be in her 2019 campaign of Medicare for all, single-payer system.
And she could be herself then, because she was polling at nothing. So, right. I mean, yes, talk, get people to pay attention to you when you were at nothing. But, we need to hold the legacy media accountable, not give them our trust. I mean, another example of just how biased they are. I saw a Washington Post article saying that Doug Emhoff, VP Harris' husband, right, is modern day sexiest man alive. Move over Ryan Gosling. Yes.
I see it. I totally see it. He's bringing dad bod back.
He has like 4 cheeks. I mean, he has so many cheeks. It's like our kids when they stuff their mouths and just, I want to eat quickly, but I don't want to spit it out.
Right. That's crazy. So they're trying to rebrand. The husband.
I'm Elizabeth Hurley.
Yeah, exactly. So This can't stand. You have got to challenge everything. Challenge us in the comments. If you think that she is a moderate centrist, we want to hear from you. And I'd love to have the dialogue, because we would completely argue with you. But if you agree with us, also leave a comment. Hit that like and subscribe button, because this election, every election is the once in a generation, but this is truly
the most insulting election.
It truly is. This is so wild. That Kamala Harris has not received a single vote from a human being in a Democrat primary, yet she is the Democrat candidate for president. This election matters. It really, really does. And so please stay tuned for greater information on Azimuth Podcast as we continue to move through this election cycle. And please stay tuned after these comments.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you enjoy our show with all of the stories we share, we would love your support.
And it's as easy as clicking that subscribe or follow button. This will ensure you never miss an episode and keeps us bringing you these important stories. Your support makes a huge difference. Thank you so much for being part of our podcast family.
Thanks, and keep tuning in.